If you're thinking about getting into model railroading or you're already an addict, boy, do we have a project for you. In this episode, we begin a whole bunch of scratch building the regular guy way, and we make it happen right now. Welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. On this show, we follow me through the hobby of model railroading while I try to build me a railroad the regular guy way. Show you my tips and my techniques and all the stuff I wish I would have done differently. Having a ton of fun hanging out with the community here. We're learning a lot, so if you're new here, consider subscribing. Now that the celebration's kind of winding down after last week's landscaping victory up in the logging camp, it's time to get down to scratch building some of the details and features we're going to put up there in the logging camp. Most notably is the log loading ramp we've been talking about for 22 weeks, and some of the retaining walls and some other stuff that's really going to make that come alive over there, in my opinion. Hey, if you watched last Tuesday's episode of Sidetrack, you'll see we found a bunch of pictures of different log loading ramps and came to the conclusion that we can pretty much build whatever we want and it's going to be prototypical. It had more to do with the materials that were available, where they were, the circumstances surrounding them. That gives us a lot of freedom to do whatever we want to do to build a log loading ramp. Now, if you missed that episode, there's a card above my head. There's a link down in the description. You can click there and go take a look at that or check it out when you're done watching this episode. Now, I don't really have any kind of a formal plan or anything for this log loading ramp. It's just something that's up in my head. I know the pros and a lot of more seasoned guys will draw something out on a piece of paper, a CAD CAM system or some crap like that. But, you know, I just don't have the time and I don't have the discipline to be able to do that. I just kind of see it and I just start going with it, as I'm sure you guys have already seen. So I've got an idea for how this is going to look. I think you're going to like the way it develops, and I'd like to start showing it to you right now. Okay, let's get into this. We're going to build a log loader. I've determined that this is about the maximum length train we're going to have up against the log loader. Now, since it is a logging camp, I'm going to give priority to the skeleton log cars and then one pulpwood car. Sometimes there could be 2 skeleton cars and 2 pulpwood cars, and when they load the pulpwood cars, they're going to have to deal with it. Just the way it's going to go. But I'm kind of doing that because I'm going to do a slightly different deck here than for the rest of it, and like I said, I don't really have a detail of this, a drawing to show you. It's just it's in my little pea brain. So here's what we're gonna do. I've got these little piles of logs here. These are 12 feet long logs, 6 foot long logs, and I got these little tiny logs that are also 12 feet long. And I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna put these things together. Okay, in reality, that should represent about 50 feet. Let's just see if it looks like 50 feet. It's 45 feet. The reason we're going for 50 or worse is because it's a round number. I basically want to be just slightly longer than that logging car. Actually, we probably got one too many logs in there. Let's just take that one out for now. Friends, I've become a big fan of super glue in my model building. So I always have some. I'll make sure these are right where I want them. And I'm going to go through and put a drop of super glue where each of these logs joins. I don't know if you can see this really well, but pretty much because this wood is so porous and dry, that super glue is just soaking in and just traveling the length of the logs. Alright, so then this extends off like this. And remember, I'm building this upside down, so it's going to be offset the wrong direction right now. When we flip it over, it'll be as right as rain. Need to put a straight edge behind this, I think. I have to eyeball these in the back. That is not an even edge back there. I don't know why. Sometimes the regular guy cuts stuff with his cutter and they're all supposed to be the same length, and guess what? They're not. We've got that kind of strung out. I think I'll go ahead and put a little super glue on it just to Try to hold all that together. Alright, and then we'll go hit this up with a little super glue. I'm going to keep going until I get about 150 feet of this, and then after that we'll come back and we'll start putting the rest of these logs on over here. Alright, so I went ahead and got all these other logs glued in, as you can see there, and got these little runner logs glued in. I had to go through and put these logs in right here across the runner logs because this thing was getting a little too flimsy. Just moving it around, it was going to snap and break. I needed some kind of reinforcement just to keep it intact. And frankly, we're going to have those things there anyway. So, you know, to me, it was fine to be able to do that. But anyway, now I want to go through and I want to glue in the rest of these that are going to come out here and form basically the platform the guys will walk on, put their picks down into and shove to get these logs to roll. So anyway, that's the plan. Now I believe I want to stagger these joints because right now, right here, and right here, when I go to pick it up, it bends right there. It wants to pretty much blow up right there. So what I'll need to do is go through and figure out a point, something like right there, and just hit it with the X-Acto real quick. Make sure that we like where it fits, which I think that's pretty much okay. Now that joint will be back here, so when I put a new log in here, it spans that gap and Bob's your uncle. So that looks fine. I think what I'll go through and do is just make sure all these fit the way we want them with the joints staggered. Just this first row, then we'll glue this in real quick. Wow, sometimes it's better be lucky than good. Those line up almost exact after randomly cutting that off. So I don't know how that all worked out, but I'll take it. So I'm going to go through and glue that in now. So basically what I did on the others, I just rolled this back a little bit, left it on that runner deal. Well, kind of like that. Now that one's not cooperating. Like this, so I can roll them back on, basically is what I'm after right now. And then go through with a little super glue and put a drop, a little less flamboyant than I did on the rest of it because there's not as much here to grab. I don't want it spilling through. And just hold that down for a second. Alright, and just keep repeating that process. You know, something like that. And there you go. That's the first set of those installed. Now let's just go through and keep going. Alright, so there you go. Now that's it flipped over. That's the top. You can kind of see what I'm trying to get there. Those runners are there to roll the logs on, but then the logs underneath that is what they stick their pry bars down into to shove those logs forward so they make it onto the rail cars. You know, coming back here for a second, this thing's just a little too flimsy still, mostly up in here. So here's what I have decided to do. I know there's going to be a log that goes along there that supports those anyway. So I figure, I've got some of these stained logs out here. I figure I can just go ahead and install those now. Let's just get her done, shall we? Boom, reinforced on the bottom. All right, so things have had a chance to set up here, and this is kind of what it's going to look like once it gets up there in the logging camp. Again, you see we left room for the old pulpwood car there, 3 skeleton cars. We got our runners. So what I'd like to try to get done today is to get the retaining wall built off of here, and I kind of have an idea for how I want to do that, I think. First of all, in the real world, these logs right here need something to support them. See how they're just kind of hanging there? I don't think they just bound all this together with super glue back in the day. Okay, so I need to cut a bunch of these now that'll come all the way out to support those sort of logs. And then when we lay these in under here, and then with the posts on those, that holds all that up. And logging operations will be underway. So what I need to do, and this I don't think I need to be exact because you're not going to see the back side of it. We just need to get some lengths cut. And it looks like 10 feet will be too long. Let's say 9 footers. And I'm going to flip this around so I can see these other ones because I'm going to put them right underneath those. I think that'll look pretty awesome, quite honestly. And then we do the old super glue routine, right? So what I'll do is I'll put a little dab here and here, and just get that log on there. The beauty about a makeshift logging camp is if things aren't exactly square, I think it helps add to the look rather than taking away from the look. So let's go through and glue the rest of these on. Kind of liking the way that looks. It's a little squirrely here and there, but again, I think that adds to the effect, and it's my railroad, so that's what we're going to do. I do have a situation here, though, that these logs are just sort of hanging off in the breeze right here. I think I need to cut one more to put there, and then way down here at the end, I have a similar problem. So even though it won't exactly match everything else, in the real world of things, it'll look like it's supporting those logs. I've determined that I want these logs over here to be the height of a gondola when it's up against it. And so I've determined that height to be, from measuring it on the layout, it's 15 feet is what it is. Earlier we were saying 17 feet, but I really kind of like the look of that gondola being kind of flush with the deck. Hey, the guys rolling the logs, they can figure out what they want to do with that when the time comes. So 15 feet, you say. Well, sticking to this side for a second, this to me says it is 3 scale feet to the bottom of that little bottom support thing there. 13 scale feet. So if I measure this then, from the top to where the top of the post is going to sit, take 3 feet off of 15, what do you got? 12 feet left, right? So from here down is 12 feet according to the old telltale ruler. So here's the situation as I see it, folks. I'll glue one of these on right there. And the problem is I'm going to have to eyeball it perpendicular because that's just how regular guys do it. But so I'm not reaching over all of these pieces as I go. I'll just start down here. And luckily, super glue's got a smidge of a set time. So after I put it on there, I can pick it up and eyeball it a little bit. Interrupting here for just a second. These little guys are going to be pretty rickety until I get the rest of the retaining wall piece on there. So I need to be careful. I don't wave this around too much because it's bad enough that we have to rebuild stuff. I'd hate to do it because I just screwed up. All right, so I wasn't too thrilled with how these were going on. They were kind of wobbly and everything. It's because they don't have enough what I would call purchase or tooth, I think is what they would say. But we call it purchase in construction. Anyway, enough for this thing to hold on to keep it from moving around so much. So what I did is I went in and I glued in the next rail or the next log for the retaining wall on there, and then went through and pulled those up against it. Now they're holding really firmly. It'll get even better as I keep adding logs up on there. So I've got a whole big pile of logs sitting over here, and there's a lot of gluing and stuff to do. So what I think I'll do is just go ahead and continue gluing all this together. And when I get to the other side, then I'll show you how it looks, and then we're going to see how it fits in the logging camp. It's going to be great fun. Make sure you come back in about, I don't know, 1.2 seconds. So we kind of got this log loading ramp done to a point where I'm just about ready to install in the layout. I think some of the cool things to point out about it would be like these logs right here. They got all these different colors, and it looks like actual different logs everywhere, not like just one piece of wood that I scored or something. I think when it's done, we might have to go through and weather that with a little bit more brown so it all blends together like the logs have been sitting there together for a while. Also probably gonna have to go back through and touch up the end of these logs here. They look like they're freshly cut, and yeah, I don't think they're that freshly cut in reality. So that's kind of what it looks like. And let me flip it over and show you some stuff I did here. I went ahead and I glued all these logs back on to the bottom, like I said, and I left this short for now. I think when we put it on the layout, if we've got to modify these little thingers here to make it get the right height, I don't want to be cutting these logs off of it. So we can always add those later, I figure. I went ahead and added these cross braces right here all the way throughout the bottom of it. And this is because as I'm putting it together, this thing is losing its L shape, the right angle. It was kind of coming together like this, and that doesn't work for me, right? So what I did is I super glued these supports in right here, and forced it back into a right angle roughly, and I think it looks pretty good. So that's going to keep it stable. Now I went ahead and glued these legs on the back of this and braced them. The reason I did that is I want to be able to have this thing pulled off the layout and sitting in front of me just like this, so that I can go through and I can add guys rolling logs off of here. I can add some details here. Like you saw in that photo that's got the oxen pulling stuff, there's gonna be kind of dirt kind of through here like this, and I want to be able to put that on, but I want to be able to pull this off the layout, set it down, work on it if I need to, and then stuff it back up on the layout. So that's why I put those legs on the back. Now, let me show you how I envision this thing working if it were the real world, all right? There's the horsies will bring a log in, right? And they they just let go of it right there. It's done. Then what we have is we've got these little guys back in there, these little logger dudes that are coming here, and they put their pry bars into here, and they roll these logs like this, like that, right? And they keep rolling them, and they roll them, and they roll them, and they roll them, and they roll them, and then boink, they fall down onto the skeleton log cart. Now the good thing is we've seen all these different versions of log loading ramps. So I haven't seen this exact version, but we're saying this is what these people came up with what they had to work with. You know, one other feature I'll show you real quick, and then let's put this up on the layout. I don't know how well you can see it, but these logs right here, they're not exactly perpendicular or at a right angle to what's above it. I did that on purpose. I eyeballed it because I figure this is relatively temporary. They threw it up in haste, and it's been moving around a bit with snow and rocks and dirt and gophers and raccoons or whatever else are burrowing out in there. So anyway, there you go. That's the pseudo-completed log loading ramp. Now let's switch our cameras over. Let's put this up on the layout and see what it looks like. And we're back in the studio. Boom, baby. Log loading ramp done. Looks just like I imagine it in my head. It's pretty cool. I really love this little thing. Here's the deal though. We still got to do some detailing to it. I got some dirt stuff I need to do to it. Put the little log loading guys on there. Put some other details I'll show you as we move forward. But summarily, it just looks great as it sits. Of course, it'll look better on the layout, and we're going to do that in the next episode. So make sure you come back and see us then. Hey, listen, again, if you haven't already, make sure and subscribe. Make sure and you like and share this video with somebody. And until next time, my name is Steve Brown. Rail on, my friends.